everyone.
Welcome to the INHS 2022 annual meeting. We have so much to tell you.
So?
Yes, let's talk about INHS. There's so much we will tell you.
So?
It's been a trying time. Everything was steady and our plans were all ready to go. COVID begins and the world starts to spin.
COVID.
You tell them this story or I.
So sorry you do it, go on.
Just like that we had to change. Policies got rearranged. Hit us like a hurricane.
Yes, let's talk about INHS. There's so much we can tell you.
Have a minute, I'm stuttering, I'm stumbling. We are in a fight, there's the muttering of mumbling. Gotta figure out the best way we can serve.
Work, help, out.
It's a heavy lift, but we've got the know-how. Gather our reserves, it's a time we show how. Facing epidemic and watching as it spread. Keep us steady.
Had to jump into the gear. Put the clients first. Help us to calm their fears. Of what could be worse. Everything shut down as COVID moves around. Yes, let's talk about INHS. There's so much we can tell you.
When no one can go to work, can't pay the rent.
No, no.
Those kids at home, more money to spend. No, no. Stay when you're around for
Consistence. Checked in with all of our tenants and promised to not let them down. It was clear we heeded the call, serving everyone all over town.
NHS is on the
We
way.
have
All of
projects
us
underway now. Would they all have to stop?
We asked each other, that could never be.
We knew we must find a way. We must save the day.
INHS, for INHS, you really want to know about us? So sorry you were so hard. It all changed. Nothing was the same. Yes, let's talk about INHS. There's so much we can tell you. Yeah.
And now introducing the Executive Director of INHS, Johanna Anderson.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, let's talk about INHS, and yes, let's celebrate being here together after two of the most challenging years our world, our country, our region, and our community have ever faced. And as we just heard in that song, we have been meeting our mission, even as everything around us was shifting. The last 2 years have required an enormous amount of energy and resilience from all of us. INHS has always enjoyed strong working relationships with our broad community, but the pandemic initiated new partnerships and cooperation amongst organizations. All of us working in the nonprofit sector, in local, state, and federal government, in financial institutions, and in the business community had to put our heads together to address the ever-changing protocols the pandemic required. I am so pleased to see so many familiar faces live and in person here today. I get to see your legs, you're not on Zoom. This is just wonderful. I want to thank our partners, our supporters, our vendors, our elected officials from the state, the counties, and the city, as well as our fellow nonprofit organizations and friends for joining our annual meeting. There is a notable absence from today's event. Longtime Executive Director Paul Mazzarella and his wife, Carol Chalk, are unable to attend out of an abundance of caution. They are just fine, and they're with us here in spirit today. And we're recording this program so that we can send it to them later. So, there's a camera right here. What I need for all of you to do is look into the camera, and on the count of 3, loud and clear for all to hear, you're going to say, "Hi, Paul. Hi, Carol." Ready? 1, 2, 3. I feel like you can do it with more enthusiasm. Okay? Let's try it one more time. 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So, our previous annual meeting was in the spring of 2019. And this afternoon, I'm going to share what we've been up to over the last couple of years and how we have continued meeting the mission. But to get things started, please welcome INHS Board President Jeremy Thomas, who is making his debut annual meeting address.
Thank you, Johanna, and good afternoon, everybody. As Johanna said, my name is Jeremy Thomas. I'm the current board president of INHS. Thank you all so much for being here today to celebrate INHS and the impact it has had on the community. There were times over the past couple of years where I wasn't sure if I would make or have the opportunity to stand in front of you during the INHS annual meeting to say thank you. I'd like to start by thanking the fearless leader of INHS, Executive Director Johanna Anderson. Despite the many challenges facing the organization, she showed up every day, ready to tackle any hurdle that presented itself. Most importantly, she's always the first to celebrate the organization's success. And Johanna is undoubtedly INHS's biggest cheerleader, and for that we thank you, Johanna, and for your dedication and passion to affordable housing and for INHS. Right, and another thank you to my board colleagues for continuing to collaborate and lead through several very unpredictable years. When I call your name, can you please each stand to be recognized by our guests here today? Rachel Lampert. Amazing job putting this event together, so that's a big thank you. Julie Johnson. Denise Malone. Michael Cannon. Nicole Carrier-Titi. Lacey Lent. Ellen Morris-Miller. Lisa Nicholas. Cooper Soraka. Chase Van Court. Maureen Abbott and Brendan Wilbur were unable to attend today, but thank you to those two. And then finally to newly retired and longtime board member David Sprague. So thank you all very much. Finally, a huge thank you to the INHS staff for showing up, working hard, and continuing to serve our clients. I won't make you all stand up. To our funders and partners for staying by our side as we navigate unprecedented situations and seek to implement creative solutions and collaborations. And to our donors for recognizing INHS as your trusted resource for affordable housing within the community you care so deeply for. It brings me tremendous joy to be part of such a hardworking and mission-driven organization. I witnessed firsthand the strength and resilience of INHS through 2020 and 2021, and I can assure you that this organization cares about helping its neighbors find housing that fits their needs. It's what we do. The pandemic did not hold back our growth. Instead, new opportunities were embraced. One I'd like to highlight is especially representative of the entrepreneurial approach I've seen from INHS staff. I'm a bit of a real estate news geek, that sort of goes along with my job, but one doesn't need to pay close attention to the news to know about and see the impact of many national and local trends that make affordable housing, especially affordable housing, increasingly difficult to access. Rents are increasing faster than wages, with housing costs an increasing and often unsustainable share of a household's monthly expenses. Sales prices are escalating in the double digits year over year, with cash offers often winning out, and mortgage rates that are now increasing for those utilizing traditional financing. Institutional investors are purchasing owner-occupied homes around the country, turning them into rental units, managing them from afar, and quickly increasing and escalating rents. One trend you may or may not have noted is that these same institutional investors have brought this purchase and escalate strategy to manufactured home communities, which have become a desirable asset class for those seeking a competitive return on investment. Well, deciding to flip the script on that model, INHS purchased its first manufactured home community called Compass, marking a new affordable housing venture for the organization. With Compass, INHS is reimagining how a community of this type can both meet the affordable housing needs of its residents while also providing a thriving and well-managed community. It represents exactly the kind of creative thinking that is needed to combat the trends I mentioned previously and further the mission of expanding housing opportunities for low and moderate income residents in this region. Needless to say, I am so proud of this organization and once again would like to thank those who support its mission and values. INHS never slowed during the pandemic, but instead it rose to the occasion and evolved to meet the needs of its community. I'll forever be inspired by its resilient response. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. So let's talk about 2020, 2021, and everything about INHS. We meet our mission through activities of 4 lines of business. There's property management, there's residential lending, construction services, and real estate development. At the start of 2020, the 4 lines of business were moving forward full steam. Real estate development had major construction projects underway in Schuyler and Tompkins County. There were others in the pipeline and even more on the drawing board. Property management had over 400 units leased up and other properties were being ready for occupancy. Construction services had crews working to make health and safety repairs for senior homeowners and households. The lending department was helping first-time homebuyers prepare for the anticipated busy spring purchase season through its down payment assistance and pre-purchase counseling programs. And then, March 2020, everything came to an abrupt stop. Luckily, INHS loves to plan. So, although we hadn't planned on a pandemic per se, we did plan for a natural disaster that would measurably disrupt our daily operations and prevent staff from accessing our main office. So, with just a few adjustments, INHS staff were able to use our contingency plan and continue meeting the mission within days of the initial shutdown. Vanessa Tivelli and Katie Lopez from our finance department jumped in and tag teamed to collect and distribute the massive amounts of mail that we receive at our empty office every day, and they scanned it off to all of the staff members at their homes. Our maintenance department focused on sanitizing all common spaces in our rental buildings multiple times a day and providing emergency work orders. They also, much to their chagrin, they committed to weekly COVID-19 testing to ensure their safety and the safety of the residents. Our home repair specialists, unable to continue working on clients' homes, immediately put their skills to work making repairs on vacant properties that INHS had already owned. That left 32 remaining staff members to organize home offices, reimagine how to conduct a high-touch customer service in-person business despite the separation and isolation the pandemic inserted into all of our lives. Alongside the people we serve, who regularly tell us how the staff has helped them with their housing situations and more, I too am very grateful for the staff's flexibility, their ingenuity, and dedication to solving problems. They were not only heroes, but they were chameleons, adjusting procedures and changing and inventing models as needed. There they are. Staff, I know I make you do a lot of horrible things sometimes, and you are really good sports about it. Jeremy said that he wasn't going to make you stand, but I am. So all INHS staff members, please stand up and be recognized for your incredible service. What's shown so brightly through all the uncertainty of the pandemic was the staff's willingness to adjust, to think outside the box, and to pitch in. And pitching in sometimes meant doing something completely new and outside one's regular responsibility. It was a crisis, an all-hands-on-deck situation, and we had to figure it out. So here's what we did. Let's talk about property management and the tenants living in our rental units. Our first action item was to suspend all eviction proceedings as well as late fees. This was before then Governor Cuomo's declared the statewide moratorium. Many INHS tenants lost their jobs overnight, and those who did remain employed did not have the opportunity to work remotely. Staff member Amber Compton was tasked with reaching out to every household within INHS's rental portfolio. She was a familiar and compassionate voice, checking in to see how they were doing and connecting them with critical resources. Melody Sesko, Director of Asset and Property Management, as well as Lynn Truway, then Senior Real Estate Developer, were in the middle of an occupied rehab project that involved relocating tenants while work was being completed on their homes. In March of 2020, INHS also happened to purchase Verona Village, located in Ovid. It's a senior rental property consisting of 46 units. It was fully occupied and in desperate need of repair. Luckily, Donna Sherwood and Tina Carlson, who had been managing Verona Village collectively for over 40 years, decided to stay on with INHS and become a staff and provide that kind of consistency for the residents. In March of 2021, at another senior property called Newfield Garden Apartments, tenants were able to get their first vaccinations with a pop-up clinic. We all remember the challenges of that period when vaccines first became available, and we were so pleased that INHS could spearhead the effort. From the first brutal wave of COVID in 2020 throughout all of 2021, Melody Sesko and her team served our tenants. While we may have been physically isolated from each other, together we were meeting the mission, and I commend them for their outstanding efforts. Let's talk about construction services. It's a department dedicated to providing health and safety repairs for low-income homeowners throughout our region. So when the government-directed health policy became a no-contact policy, staff couldn't work inside clients' homes except on an emergency basis, and many requests for repairs had to be put on hold. Thinking creatively to get work done and to avoid furloughing any staff, INHS construction crews quickly pivoted and began working on an unoccupied community housing trust property in Ovid. This 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1880 farmhouse, donated by CFCU, needed extensive work. Well within their skill set, but not their usual assignment, INHS was able to allocate its employee resources, and a beautifully renovated home became available for sale to a first-time home buyer. In 2020, through a grant from New York State, the Access to Home program, INHS's Construction Services Department was able to make accessibility modifications to 11 homes in Tioga and Tompkins counties for clients with disabilities, and they did it safely. Knowing all the hurdles that were jumped and the COVID procedures that were initiated, I am so pleased to share the data that in 2020, 136 people with a median income of less than $24,000 received minor repair assistance for free. In 2021, 148 people with a median household income of less than $21,000 a year received small repair assistance for free. In 2020, INHS closed 14 rehab loans that served 30 people. In 2021, that number more than doubled to 33 loans serving 85 people. I am grateful to all those on our project management and construction crews, as well as our lending staff who reinvented the wheels many times over to serve our clients. I also thank all the organizations and funders who supported INHS in meeting the mission in 2020 and 2021. Now, let's hear from an INHS client, Lena Ruth.
My name is Lena, and INHS helped me with home repairs. When I purchased it, there was skirting all the way around. 2 days later, when I came to take over the property, there was like 10 pieces left. So that made it really difficult to keep the house warm when fall and winter hit because the wind was just blowing through there. I had to keep going under with a hairdryer and thawing the pipes. They kept freezing with the no skirting being there. Utility bills through the roof because it was registering so cold in certain areas of the house. INHS was out here and had the ball rolling and work started within 3 weeks of the initial phone call. So I was really impressed. It's drastically warmer inside and my pipes are not freezing anymore. I've learned working with INHS that they actually cared, and it was comforting to know that there was a company willing to help someone like me who couldn't afford to do this on my own. I would tell my neighbors if they were in need to definitely give INHS a call, see if there's something they can help you with.
So let's talk about our lending department, which provides down payment and closing cost assistance to first-time home buyers throughout our 7-county service area. So real estate transactions were halted during those early days, which left the lending staff unable to deploy several pots of funding sources that were designated for purchase assistance. Director of Lending, Delia Yarrow, and her team put their heads together to collaborate on a plan. They worked with funders from the state, the county, and the city of Ithaca to repurpose existing grants designated for purchase in order to provide rental assistance for people living in Schuyler, Seneca, Tioga, and Tompkins County. This was no simple feat, as guidelines, schedules, and even forms needed to be coordinated and created. Once that was sorted out, tenants had the ability to know that they had consistent eligibility requirements no matter what funding source they were accessing. Scott Reynolds, Director of Information Technology, had to rebuild our databases and create the tech support needed for this effort, which was massive. INHS administered the Rental Assistance Program, which served 143 households by distributing $460,000 in rental assistance through 2021 until New York State was able to launch its own program. Those who received this assistance were not only renting from INHS, but from other landlords throughout the region. During this time, the lending staff were able to provide purchase assistance to home buyers once again. And it wasn't until the pandemic that we all calculated exactly how much face-to-face time is required in the process of buying a home. The first step is for a prospective buyer to attend INHS's homebuyer education. The usual face-to-face experience was relatively easy to move to Zoom. So we transitioned to online seminars and served 412 households in 2020 and 709 households in 2021. But what about all the paperwork that needs signatures? How about all the other steps that previously required in-person meetings? Scott Reynolds to the rescue again. He adjusted the existing database to allow for paperless lending. And if anyone knows Delia Yarrow and her lending team, you know that they will are never going to let the momentum of first-time home ownership be interrupted. In 2020, they closed 20 purchase loans serving 61 people, and in 2021, 39 purchase loans serving 97 people. We had a new initiative in 2021 funded by a grant from New York State HCR that was restricted to first-time home buyers who are residents of Chemung County. First-time buyers would receive $20,000 in down payment and closing cost assistance. The project was supposed to serve 9 households. Well, let's talk about INHS because we served 11. Perseverance, resilience, and creativity are appropriate descriptors for our homeownership and lending team. And thank you for an outstanding 2 years. Now, let's hear from an INHS client, Leslie Benjamin.
I was living in my car and I needed a place to live, and somebody hooked me up with INHS, and they were great. I had a caseworker at Ithaca Housing Authority, which is the organization that provides Section 8, and she knew about the first-time home buyers program, which I never heard of, and I never considered buying a house. It never entered my mind, ever. And so I went to the class, and right away they gave us enough information to realize you can buy a house. And I was just like this, like, wow, what? And it was really sort of crazy, interesting, and very possible. Every time I see a house that INHS has put together and renovated, I know it's INHS that's done it, even without a sign in front of the house, because you can tell their work is signature. They make things look valuable. And I mean, look at this house. You see from the outside, it looks like a small mansion or something. It's got the pillars, the beautiful colors, and the good materials, and all their houses that they do look really nice, look valuable, and they make their houses comfortable, comfortable, affordable, beautiful. I still have a hard time saying, I own a house, So people like me, can actually own a house.
So let's talk about real estate development. When we gathered here in 2019, I shared some very exciting news. I held up a huge collection of keys and announced that the night before that meeting, we had just purchased Immaculate Conception School, and that renovations would begin shortly. Well, let's talk about what happened over the last 2 years, 1 month, 14 days, not that anyone's counting, since that photo was taken. Aptly named Founders Way, in honor of the individuals and institutions that founded INHS, I'm thrilled to give you this update. Founders Way has been embraced by all, the neighborhood, the city, our partners, and our funders, and thanks to the extraordinary skill and organization of general contractor Hamilton Stern Construction, I am pleased to announce that we are ahead of schedule and will start leasing rental units in just 2 weeks and be offering the for sale houses later on in July. The length of this pandemic has been measured by its challenges, and our Founders Way project can be measured by its accomplishments. grateful that affordable housing was quickly deemed essential by New York State once New York on pause came into effect, because we jumped back into our construction process immediately, and the pandemic did not stop us. Let's talk about completing construction of Glen Lake Apartments, serving the residents of Schuyler County in the village of Watkins Glen. 34 apartments plus a 7,341 square foot child care center occupying a 3-story building that includes a community room, laundry facilities with a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units. Always meeting the mission. These apartments are affordable to renters earning between 47% and 80% of area median income. 6 units have been set aside for clients of the Chemung Schuyler County ARC. And in keeping with our Build Green policy, the building achieved LEED Gold certification, a designation that reduces energy and water usage, promotes better indoor air quality, and reduces maintenance and operating costs, among many other benefits. Then Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul had joined us for the ribbon cutting. Let's talk about Cayuga Flats, formerly known as Scattered Site. Beginning in the 1980s, INHS purchased buildings with the goal of stabilizing the historic South Side, West Hill, and North Side neighborhoods. Our scattered site inventory has grown to include more than 120 units located throughout these neighborhoods. In 2021, we rehabbed 29 apartments and 2 commercial spaces in our scattered site inventory. It required relocating some tenants while the renovations took place. No easy task during COVID. Renovations and upgrades included new roofs, heating systems, siding, flooring, kitchen, baths, landscaping, and energy efficiency upgrades. 28 of the 29 units target households earning between 25% and 60% of area median income. So many of our Cayuga Flats properties are houses built in the late 19th century. 2 of the properties were rehabbed and received a Historic Ithaca Preservation Award in 2021. 111 West Clinton was constructed as early as 1851 and extensively remodeled in the late 1800s. And more than a century later, we renovated it again. This included a new kitchen and bathroom. Original wood floors were refinished, new insulation installed. Original light fixtures were retained and rewired for safety. Affordable housing and historic preservation can go hand in hand. 227 South Geneva had its original stucco replaced after a lot of research to find materials and a mason capable of matching the original. Non-original windows were replaced, and original windows were retained and upgraded with exterior storm windows. We replaced the original appearance of the house by installing a paired window that replaced a non-original sliding door. Both buildings achieved National Green Building Standard Silver certification, maintaining the history of a neighborhood by restoring homes. In this way is how real estate development is meeting the mission. In 2021, new construction aspect of Cayuga Flats included the completion of apartments on Elm Street, 13 new units, including 10 one-bedroom apartments and 3 two-bedroom apartments. It was constructed to extremely high energy and green building standards. Close to downtown and bus routes, the newly constructed building is in close proximity to shopping and health and human services. In addition to our 4 lines of business, there are 2 new projects that INHS took on in 2020 and 2021 that meet the mission but don't fall directly into one of the existing departments. We know the demand for affordable housing continues to grow, and there is another sector of housing stock that has emerged to fill that gap for low and moderate income people, and that is manufactured housing. As Jeremy introduced earlier, across the country, this has been the only option for minimum wage earners where subsidized housing is either completely unavailable or there is not enough inventory to accommodate everyone. Manufactured housing communities, formerly known as mobile home parks, offer an option that many choose because in addition to its affordability, residents are able to enjoy the community and support it offers. However, this alternative is now facing a takeover by investment companies, buying the communities, raising the rents, curtailing improvements, reducing updates to a bare minimum. Residents are facing the total loss of their homes as management companies gouge rates and apply pressure to have people abandon their properties as they cannot afford to move it to another location, which costs about $70,000 to do. In 2021, INHS had an opportunity to purchase a manufactured housing community before it faced the fate of so many around the country. In conversations with current residents, we determined that INHS could significantly improve the overall structure of the community and provide health and safety as well as energy efficiency upgrades. With the encouragement of residents, and after a lot of negotiations with the previous owner, INHS acquired the 51-year-old development located in the village of Trumansburg, which we have renamed Compass. All roads lead home. Over the next 2 years, INHS will be making repairs to existing park-owned homes to ensure all safety and code issues are addressed, installing new roads, sanitary lines, street lighting, landscaping, and improving the existing drainage system, and financing and repairing services to existing homeowners to make energy and capital improvements and just quality of life enhancements. INHS is the first nonprofit affordable housing organization to take on a project like this. We are pleased to lead the way by broadening the opportunities and meeting the mission to serve our clients. There is one more exciting project I want to share with you today. There is a critical need to provide housing for formerly incarcerated people to help them reintegrate back into the community. In a collaborative effort between OAR, URO, and INHS, basically through a collaboration of acronyms, the Sunflower Houses went from an idea into reality. This program provides safe, affordable housing for 12 humans that are ready to change their lives. Participants are supported in their efforts by a full-time house manager employed by OAR, who connects them to area resources such as computer training, workforce prep, and related services. Promoting independence is a major goal, and after being open for just over 6 months, has already had many graduate from the program. All of us at INHS are enthusiastic about this new partnership and the opportunity of meeting the mission in this important and impactful way. So yes, let's talk about INHS. I am so pleased to have shared my 2020 and 2021 report with you. I thank you for your patience. Thank you very much.
There you are. How are you? I've heard something that is impossible to believe.
Really, what did you hear?
David Sprague has stepped down from the INHS board.
No!
Yes! And what an amazing tenure he's had.
Should we sing about it?
I think that's why we're here.
He spent his life accounting with figures and such. And now we are recounting how he's done so much.
I know he'll never retire. Don't try to convince him of that. Working that sets him on fire. Give him numbers and columns and facts. He'll always be an accountant, but it took so long to gel. He tried social work at pre-med in the days he was at Cornell.
Ithaca is his birthplace.
A devoted community guy. He'll always be an accountant, and the sum of him is high. You know, since the word got out that David Sprague was leaving the board, I've been hearing from a lot of people.
Really? Like who?
Well, Taste Van Court, for one.
Is he gonna sing with us?
Well, let's find out.
David has been a wonderful board member for INHS. When we started, this was a very small local organization, and we had many, many people on the board who were born here, who had lived here for a very long time. David was the last of those. And because of his status, he knew the community unlike anybody else. He would give the board little seminars on accounting, on finance, and on real estate economics. When we had discussions on the board, he would strongly advocate for what he thought was the right way to go. But if it didn't go his way, he would happily go along with what the rest of the board decided. We might disagree, but we never disagreed disagreeably. He was a terrific board member, and I really miss him on the board.
This is a real honor to give a little ode to David Sprague. Unfortunately, I was only given 2 days, and I thought I would be a little different and find someone who didn't like David Sprague. And I couldn't do it in 2 days. And quite frankly, I've been in town for more than 35 years, and I couldn't find or remember over those 35 years anyone not liking David Sprague. I said, he's so likable that TACE waived the normally required 35 years for this Lifetime Achievement Award and was willing to give it to him after only 33 years on the board. And anyone who knows David knows that he's quite frugal. The Sprague and Janowski partnership was around a long, long time. And when Jay Janowski retired, David would only consider a new partner with a last name starting with J so that he could save all of his letterhead. So David, good luck, and always remember us and keep us in your heart.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sorry that I couldn't be with you today, but I appreciate the opportunity to say a few words about one of my favorite people, David Sprague. David embodies all the qualities that make an outstanding director of a nonprofit organization. He's smart, dedicated, and resourceful. Over the course of his over 30 years on the INHS board, including serving as chair and treasurer, he played a key role in guiding the growth of this organization. David's financial acuity helped INHS weather some difficult times and achieve unparalleled stability. He served as a quiet and unassuming mentor for other board members and the INHS staff. It's not an exaggeration to say that no director is more respected than David Sprague. Plus, he's a lot of fun to be around. I'm proud to be able to count him as a friend, and I'll be forever indebted to him for his contributions to INHS. I miss you all and look forward to the time when I can see you again in person. Thanks.
You know, that was so great that it wants me to sing again. He's been a great board member, serving more than 30 years. But starting each December, tax season, he disappears. He's been a great board member, like a garden, our gratitude grows. David Sprague, we remember your legacy forever shows.
I think it's so appropriate for a man who has watched The Nutcracker dozens of times to be honored with a song and dance. It was my pleasure to serve with David Sprague for several years. Unfortunately, he was no longer offering his Accounting 101 fast track course for board members, but I know how helpful that was. David served as board president from June 1997 to May 2005 and as treasurer from June 2005 until his retirement in August of 2019. He has tirelessly dedicated his service to INHS and to making positive changes within our community. It gives me great pleasure to present the INHS Exemplary Service Award to David Sprague, the very first. We also have a small gift from the board as well.
Wow, I don't recognize that person, but I do have to be honest with you. The reason I stayed on the board was for so long was in the hopes of beating Taze for longevity as the longest serving board member, and it became clear it was never going to happen. So thanks for this. It was an honor and a privilege to serve with so many folks who are so dedicated. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, David. We are so grateful for your service and wish you all the best. INHS is about supporting people in our 7-county service area, and serving those people are members of INHS's staff. Many of them have reached milestones in their tenure since our last annual meeting. I would like each of these staff members to please stand up when I call your name, and please remain standing so that we can recognize you properly. Those reaching 5 years of service: Accounting Manager Vanessa Tavelli, Accounting Associate Amber Compton, Director of Real Estate Development Ms. Lynn Truing, Loan Officer Patrick Mitchell, Lending Associate Leslie Debo. Those reaching 10 years of service: Senior Project Manager Mr. Louis Gunn, Senior Maintenance Coordinator Mr. Bobby Hendrickson, and of course, INHS's Director of Finance, Patty Pelangeli, celebrated her 25th year this past March. Now, the Florence Horde Beautification Award is named in honor of a revered member of the Ithaca Garden Club who was a symbol of and voice for beautification in her community. Noted for her efforts during the city's centennial celebration, and was founder of a popular Mother's Day Plant Exchange, which is held each year at Ithaca High School. Each spring, a member of the INHS service area is recognized through this award for their notable contributions to community beautification. Please welcome Monica Roth, winner of the 2010 Florence Horde Beautification Award, to present this year's award.
I'm glad I don't have to sing. I hope I don't have to sing. Anyhow, I'm really pleased to have nominated this year's Florence Horde Community Beautification Award recipient, who is Jean Grace, our city forester. I'm sure many of you have met Jean out on the street. I also have a real fondness for this award because Florence was a neighbor. She lived down the street from me, and when I worked at Cooperative Extension, she would always call and say, I have this idea for a planting, or did you see this house that has beautiful plants? Why don't we tell other people to do that? So I always appreciated her suggestions, and was able to actually work with Florence on the city's beautification, the Centennial Beautification Committee, and that really provided the impetus for our Tompkins countywide beautification program. And I know Florence would be thrilled with the great effort that has recently been coordinated by Jean to create a dazzling daffodil display. Whew, I got through those 3 Ds along our roadways and throughout the city. I've had the pleasure of working with Jean since she came on board as city forester, And in her position, she takes on a lot of responsibility for all of our parks and plantings in the parks and street trees, along with managing her crew who do a lot of the work with her. And in addition to her ordinary tasks, she also collaborates with lots of community initiatives and is often the city's green light to allow us to move forward with some of these initiatives. She's worked for many years with the city's Shade Tree Advisory Committee, citizen pruner volunteers, a new program called Eco Stewards that take care of our natural areas. The Tompkins County Beautification Program gets lots of support from Jean, especially in the way of mulch. And more recently, the city's historic cemetery she secured an arboretum designation for the cemetery, so it's very exciting to have that happen. And all of this, now the Daffadazzle initiative is another collaboration that Jean spawned through her relationship with the Ithaca Garden Club. We've had small bulb plantings around the city for many years, but it wasn't until we were able to take advantage of a bulb planting machine that Cornell horticulture professor Bill Miller acquired from his work with the Holland Bulb Network or whatever it is. And so the machine actually really helped launch this initiative and help it take off throughout the city. So the first planting was October 2020 when over 12,000 daffodils and 5,000 muscari and crocus were planted. And then another 20,000 bulbs were planted in the fall of 2021. And I'm sure that everybody, if you've not seen these, you must not have been looking or driving along the right roads. But this spring they gave us a beautiful showing that we could all enjoy. So the bulbs were purchased with the help of the Garden Club and also from the city's economic development program. And so now, after these 2 years, we have the bulbs to provide us a joyful spring celebration. And thanks to Jean and all the community partners and volunteers for this amazing contribution to beautifying our city. So, Jean, you can come up.
Thank you so much for this award. I want to thank INHS for recognizing this as a addition to the community that they saw value in. I'd also like to thank Monica Roth and Tom Knight for nominating me in this project for this award. Tom also serves on my little impromptu bulb committee. And I'd also like to thank Professor Bill Miller, who you see in the picture there. A few years ago, he called me up and said, I've got this cool machine that plants bulbs under the grass. Do you want to try it out? And I was like, yes. So we did a little test sample along the waterfront trail at the Newman Golf Course right outside my office. And then the following spring, I just saw how many people were walking on the trail, would stop and take pictures, and it just seemed like it was a really great addition and a really simple thing that we could do, and I was just determined to see bulbs everywhere after that. So I worked with the Ithaca Garden Club, who got really into the idea. Wendy Blanchard and Elaine Alexander did a lot of fundraising through the Ithaca Garden Club so that we planted tens of thousands of bulbs over the course of 2 years, mainly over at Cass Park. And this is an ongoing project. So definitely mark it on your calendars to go down, walk through the waterfront trail next late April, early May, and see more and more and more flower bulbs. And I'm just so appreciative to get this award. I do a lot for the city, and I feel like as a public works employee, there's a lot of requests that come my way and complaints, and not always appreciation. And so I really am so excited that this project means so much to me and was something that I was so excited about, and that it's something that the community is recognizing as a valuable use of my time as well. So go out and enjoy the flowers next spring. Thank you so much.
The Lucy J. Brown Leadership Award is named in honor of Lucy Brown, who has made significant and lasting contributions to both INHS and the greater community
through her leadership and service. As one of the founders of INHS, Lucy was instrumental in its long-term growth and its commitment to mission. Lucy served continuously on the board of directors from 1976 until her retirement in 2017. She has been a strong advocate for neighborhood residents and has made sure that resident issues are central in all decision-making. Each spring, we award the Lucy J. Brown Leadership Award to a member or members of our service area who, like Lucy, exemplify a similar commitment to community and neighborhood as a voice and advocate for those who typically have been underrepresented and whose efforts have made a difference in the lives of many. Please welcome the recently retired Executive Director of OAR, Deborah Dietrich, to present this year's award.
Good afternoon. First, I need to thank INHS for their vision in partnering with URO, the Ultimate Reentry Opportunity, and OAR to provide housing for the formerly incarcerated. The people we work with are frequently homeless and are marginalized in 1,000 ways. And for INHS to embrace this project really meant the world to all of us. So thank you, Johanna, for leading that effort. And thank you, INHS, for accepting my nomination of Haley Romero and Richard Rivera for this award. Since I nominated 2 people, I'm not going to go into great length about each of them. But I will say to you that they both exemplify the best of nonprofit workers. This is really a sector of our economy that demands much and rewards little. And the way they exemplify that in my mind is, first of all, they both lead with their heart. And that's central to the work many of us do in this room. The second thing that makes them outstanding, in my opinion, is they embrace the harm reduction approach to problems. So many years in the not-for-profit sector I spent early on where it was like, how can we make the people we work with more like us? Well, what a weird way to look at things. We meet people where they are, not where we think they should be or where we would want to be. Each of our people as an individual have the right to self-determination. And thirdly, and most importantly in many respects, is both Haley and Richard treat each of the people they work with respect. It's far too often missing in our dealings with people who are marginalized in this community. So I want to just close by saying they've inspired me and many of their colleagues through those dark days of the pandemic. They were out there working and keeping us going with their inspirational leadership. So congratulations to both Richard and Haley.
Just gonna speak?
I'll speak.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Deb, so much for this award. And I also want to thank again, OAR staff, URO staff, and INHS for all of this. Along with a lot of the community, it definitely has been a lot of efforts through Cornell students, Cornell staff, community members, students. We've had so many great organizations connect with us to help really produce such an amazing program as Sunflower. And I'm also very thankful to meet all the members that have been through and are in the program. Such amazing human beings. And yeah, I'm just overall so grateful to meet so many community members that have helped with this project, but also just really connect with the members in the program. So thank you.
Yes, I also would like to thank the organizations I work with, OER, URO, I work for Cornell, all the participants that have been engaged in this program to make this a reality. The sunflower houses and the collaborations that we have. I want to thank my wife in particular for being so supportive and loving throughout the years. And we're just going to continue pushing forward and continuing the good work. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
So congratulations to this year's award winners. Richard, you're going to have to come back up here. These past couple of years have been excruciating on so many levels, yet it also offered us an opportunity to see exceptional and inspiring people. It was just over a year ago that I met that guy, and I can honestly say my life was changed forever. For those of you unfamiliar with Richard and his work, he is the Associate Director of Cornell's Prison Education Program, as well as the Outreach and Reentry Coordinator for OAR of Tompkins County. He's an ethnographic researcher looking at the intersectionalities of mental health, substance use, and homelessness in Ithaca's homeless encampments, commonly referred to as the jungle. He is a social justice advocate. Richard has published scholarly articles and has appeared on several panels covering such issues as the traumatic effects of serialized parole denials to pandemics and carceral environments. Please welcome our keynote speaker, Mr. Richard Rivera.
Thank you for having me, and good afternoon. Well, I want to touch on three things because there was a lot to think about when they asked me to speak at this event. INHS has done so much for this community and the collaboration that we have. So I want to speak about the mission of the program and nonprofit work in Ithaca, some of the barriers that impede some of the work that we do, and of course I want to speak about Sunflower House because I think that is a significant and important addition to our community. About myself, a lot of people have heard of me. I've been involved in a lot of things. I'm a formerly incarcerated person, so I came to this community from prison to and just got involved in a project, an ethnographic research project looking at mental health, poverty, and substance use. Inevitably, I ended up in the encampments in the jungle where I embedded myself among the homeless community, collecting narratives, looking at their cultural and social norms, the relationships they build, the relationships with the community, with themselves. And it's a 2.5-year project. I finished about 6-7 months ago, and in the process of producing our work on that area. About the mission, right? The mission of Ithaca Neighborhood Housing is to expand housing opportunities to low and income populations. These are the populations that I work with, the most vulnerable and at-risk population. Ithaca has this strange thing going on. It is a community that's progressive, that is loving, that is caring, but it also has an incredibly high poverty rate. 38% of the population lives in poverty. Among the Black population, 70% of the population lives in poverty. You also have migrant workers that live in farms, in debt to the landlords that they work for, and are really dependent on. So Ithaca Neighborhood Housing offers the opportunities to this population that I'm most familiar with, that I work with on a day-to-day basis. They have expanded since 1976 to 7 counties, which is incredible. And it seems to me that the work that Ithaca Neighborhood Housing does is about relationships and collaborations, which is the trademark of what I do. I like to build networks, I like to build relationships, I like to push people to be better than themselves as siloed communities in a competitive environment. In about 2020, about March, I was contacted by Ithaca Neighborhood Housing about an idea to start a reentry program for Tompkins County in collaboration. Then the pandemic hit. And then we started working in the communities. We were essential workers, OAR. And we just got to know a lot of people during that time. We got to see where the needs were greater, what populations were being excluded, what populations needed services, how difficult it was to find housing. I ended up at some point interviewing the mayor, asking him about affordable housing in Ithaca. And every time, Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services came up over and over again as a place where people can find assistance. Because Ithaca is a generous community, right? Actually, in Ithaca, despite its poverty rate, no one ever goes hungry in Ithaca. There's food pantries almost in every corner, those little blue boxes. Loaves and Fishes provides meals. Salvation Army provides meals. Every nonprofit has snacks, umbrellas, sleeping bags, tents, water bottles, any sort of assistance we could give. Outreach workers are constantly working with these vulnerable populations, providing medical services through Reach Medical, life-sustaining supplies through Second Wind, OAR, and navigational service and comfort through Children and Family Services, and any program that we can. Ithaca is a community that cares, and it delivers its services through a vast network of relationships. Collaborations, relationships that complement the work that we do and enhances the efficiency and sustainability of the work that we do. Our mission, which is the mission of Ithaca Neighborhood Housing also, is to sustain and reduce the stresses associated with housing and economic insecurities, in essence, right? It is the web of relations that Ithaca Neighborhood Housing, it is in this web of relations that Ithaca Housing finds its place. Ithaca Housing is successful because it operates among this network, among this web of connections with other agencies. The relationship between OAR and URO is one that's complementary in the sense that Ithaca Housing provides the houses, we provide the services. Ithaca Housing provides housing in dilapidated communities and builds up and brings these people in. There's always someone there collaborating with Ithaca Neighborhood Housing to make these things a reality. And it is in this web of relationships that Ithaca Neighborhood Housing finds stuff. When I say we, I'm not announcing a preferred pronoun. I'm saying this is what we do. If the pandemic has taught us anything, is that efficacy is about collaborations. That we can no longer operate in a competitive silo, competing with other organizations for funding grants. That we work better and we are better when we work with each other, when we use the resources available in our community. And this is what Sunflower House was built on. It was built on the idea that we could provide housing, right, using the resources that we have in this community. And this is what I think what attracted Ithaca Neighborhood Housing the most. That we were able to provide medical services through Reach. We were able to provide counseling through STAT, meals through Loaves and Fishes, gardening through CCE. Cornell has made contributions to the program. URO just put in Wi-Fi. The program is running successfully because they provided a safe space and the community members just participated. In August, as a matter of fact, we're having a block party, inviting the entire block to introduce this program to the community because we feel that the neighbors need to know that the people they have there are safe, are friendly, and are approachable. The mission of Ithaca Neighborhood Housing began, of course, in 1976, and it began with partnerships, serving adults, elderly adults, finding housing, repairing, renting affordable housing for individuals that are housing insecure, and a bunch of other services, serving 7 counties. And this is the work that we do, right? This is the work that we do. I find people that are homeless and I try to get them housed. They have the houses. I find people homeless that need substance use. STAT will provide something. I mean, everyone participates, and this is how we get things done, because we provide the supportive services that people that are recently housed need. Housing is just not enough. It's not enough to just house somebody when they have a host of other problems like substance use, court involvement, mental health issues, histories of trauma, histories of abuse. These are the populations that are most vulnerable and at risk in our population. And housing is just not enough. It is part of a process that involves care for the individual, counseling, mentoring, support, just listening to them. And this is what we do. Ithaca neighborhood housing has embedded itself in this web of relationships, in this community in particular. Because in this community, people do care, and people do support the community, support the population that we deal with, and yes, and that's what makes it efficacy. It makes it have efficacy, right? But there are barriers to this, right? Because a lot of nonprofits work dependent on grants, especially with federal grants. Right? And one of the big criticisms when I was looking at Ithaca neighborhood housing was, well, I'm not allowed to get a permit because I have bad credit. With 70% of the population of Black living in poverty and 38% of the general population of Ithaca living in poverty, those people seem to be excluded. And I approached Johanna about this. I called her, I said, this is the criticism that I'm hearing. And I didn't know at the time that Ithaca neighborhood housing has to accept the grants. It needs these grants, right? But it also tries to find ways to make these people's credit scores go up. They work with them for years. 5 years she's been working with someone to build their credit, to get them housed. And I'm hoping that she will get them housed, and the program will get them housed, because that's what it's about. It's about trying to overcome the barriers by thinking outside the box, by being imaginative, by being consistent and being compassionate, and this is what we do. The Sunflower Houses, for example, is the first of its kind in Tompkins County. Tompkins County has never had a reentry program, despite the fact that it has a significant population that returns to Tompkins County. Right now, we have 951 individuals in the Department of Correction that will eventually be released, since most populations serve only 5 years in prison. Most people do. And Sunflower House is now there for that. We opened in December. We have had 18 individuals in the houses. We have 4 apartments. Each apartment has 3 rooms, 1.5 bathrooms, so there won't be no fighting over the bathrooms. We have 3 apartments for men, 9 men and 3 women. We have had 18 people go through 18 people in the program since 6 people have transitioned into permanent housing or have been referred to programs that are better suited for their needs. And this is a big issue, because when we deal with this population, we know that they come with histories of trauma and issues, and sometimes they may not succeed in the program. But our goal is to try to help them succeed, so we'll refer them to programs that are better suited for their needs. And this has proven to be successful too. We don't evict people. And that was a big issue that we were dealing with because we just can't evict people. And this was a collaboration between 3 organizations, like Johanna pointed out. URO, an incredible partner. They were engaged in a research process, a study, looking at people that were returned to Tompkins County and identify the 4 most basic needs, which included housing, transportation, because we live in such a dispersed area, and communication and employment, technology and stuff like that. And this helped us identify that we need to find an area that's centrally located to parole, probation, and all the resources they need. So we found a place that was unregulated, because that was another issue. And we found a place that was centrally located right there on Cayuga and Titus. Individuals that lived there could go and access anything they need, the library, the transportation system, the parole, and all that. It's a collaboration also with OAR, who's providing all the services in a proactive way. So our staff doesn't wait for people to come knocking on the door. They're there pushing jobs, pushing housing, pushing anything that person needs. Haley has been incredible as a case manager. They are dealing with people crying and laughing with each one of them as they go through their thing, because this is a human experience. We're not dealing with objects, right? But it's also a bigger collaboration. It's a big collaboration with Reach Medical, Cornell, Ithaca College, DSS, parole, probation, CCE, and a host of state, county, and city agencies and nonprofits. And this is what it's about, right? We went into operations in December, and we have had 18 individuals go through the program. We have had 0 arrests. We have had 0 returns back to prison. We have had 0s returning to past or previous behaviors, criminal behaviors, or behaviors that got them in trouble. They have had 0 encounters with law enforcement. In comparison, prior to this program, individuals that were returned to Tompkins County were put in the shelter system. they had an 85% recidivism rate as individuals sat in that place. 22% of the local jail population was individuals that were there for parole violations. So you could see how it was costing the state a huge amount of money just because they didn't have nothing in place to address the needs of this population. We believe that the Sunflower model is not only good for Tompkins County, but it's a model that could be replicated in other rural areas. If we had integral neighborhood housing, and every county in New York State will be approaching and asking them, listen, could we get another house for Schuyler County, which is extremely poor, or Tioga County, which is doing bad. You know, the counties that really don't have anything going on except drinking and meth, you know what I mean? Basically. And then that's something that we would like to change. You know, and I want to conclude soon. In a post-pandemic environment, efficacy is about partnerships and collaborations. Operating in these silo and competitive environments is no longer a viable or effective way of doing business. Ithaca Neighborhood Housing Services has always been ahead of the curve in this regard. They started out with partnerships. If you read the very first line of how they started with partnerships. It began with partnerships and collaboration and had been expanding those relationships in 1976. However, when we think about those partnerships, we think about residential, business, county, and state agencies as partners. But that misses the mark. I think the measure of Ithaca Neighborhood Housing's mission is this partnership. It's with the partnership it has formed with individuals, with families, and the most vulnerable members of our community. Those are the magical moments, right? When homes are repaired, as we saw, when families move into new homes, when someone gets an apartment that couldn't believe they would get an apartment, and finds themselves a safe space for herself and their kids. And I think that's when the smiles bloom, that's when the tears flow, and that is when we affirm in our commitment of this work. This is what we do. Right, and we realize it, and it is at that ground level where our work, your donations, because we need donations to make this happen, and our immense capacity for compassion is realized. This is where it happens, at the ground level. So please continue to support the work that Ithaca Neighborhood Housing does and other nonprofits, and thank you very much.
You made it. You made it. Congratulations. I thank you so much. I want to thank Richard. I want to thank INHS staff, our board of directors. I'd like to thank David Sprague, Haley Romero, Jean Grace. I'd also like to thank our host, Cultivare, CAF Audio, Finger Lakes Audio and Video Recording, John Reese Photography, to our performers, Eric Brooks, Stephen Nunley, Malia Sayed, Ryan Sue, the cast of Now Hear This from Walking on Water Productions, Elizabeth Selden, Becca Blackston, Carly Robinson, Cyrus Desnos, Josh Witzling, and M. Ludek. INHS staff member Rose Stutzman, thank you for putting together these beautiful centerpieces. There is one chair at each table that has a little photo card taped to the underside of the seat. That person gets to take their centerpiece home or barter with a friend. There is an incredible amount of work that goes into today's event. You can wait until after I'm done thanking everyone before you start crawling on your hands and knees. So there's an incredible amount of work that goes into today. And I would like to thank the INHS Community Relations team, the INHS Community Relations team of Justina Federley, Margaret Frank. You are amazing. And most of all, my sincere gratitude to the incomparable Rachel Lampert, INHS Board Vice President and Director Extraordinaire. Her creativity and passion make all of this possible. I want to thank you for joining us today. We hope to see you at our next event, which is July 16th from 10 to noon, which is an open house for the latest home entering into our Community Housing Trust at 110 Auburn. Thank you so much for everything. It was wonderful to be together with you, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. If the INHS Board of Directors can meet right in this area in about 5 minutes, that would be lovely. Thank you.